everyone, welcome to Pleasure Pulse. My name is Roma Richardson and I'm your host. As usual, you're tuned into ZIZ on Facebook, radio, and on YouTube. And I'm so excited to jump into tonight's conversation where we will get into sex and fitness and mental health. This month is May, which means it's Mental Health Awareness Month, which also means there are lots of activities going on surrounding mental health. And one of those activities is a walk that did it start last year? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it started last year, which is hi everyone.
Wait, we ain't even reached there.
Oh gosh.
I have to get into it.
Okay, my bad.
Okay, so we will get into that, and I will right now turn over and introduce my guest after all of that. Please introduce yourself before we get into the discussion about the mental health awareness.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Clark, aka Kachi. I'm a fitness trainer / nutrition coach, and I also give tips when it comes to fitness injuries, stuff like that, etc., etc. So versed in the fitness world. Yeah.
Okay, and you are. I want to say you're my trainer. Yeah, should I say that?
I am your trainer, and we also have a good relationship when it comes to fitness and wellness and just personal growth on a whole.
Yeah, I feel like I had to ask you a lot of questions, and it's so good because you're usually always willing to answer them. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And
if I've never said thank you before.
The greatest thing is when you meet good people and persons who you can just be yourself with, and you bring that energy. You're like a little sister to me. So
Aww.
It's always nice when we hook up.
Oh, bro,
Yeah.
that's so sweet. So tonight we are going to get into a conversation about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And fitness,
Yeah.
and we have had a similar conversation.
Yes.
I think last year we
Yes.
talked about this as well, and you mentioned to me that there is a fitness walk, a mental health walk
Yes.
that is happening May 17th.
May
I
7th.
believe it is.
Yes.
Do you want to talk some
Well,
more about that? I remember it was very long.
Yeah, I was given the opportunity last year to be on board with the development bank. They started the mental health walk. Some of the proceeds would go towards persons, stuff like that. So they asked me to come in and do the warm up and the warm down, which I was glad to do, having the understanding of how important our mental health is. And when we live in a community, we can see persons who have been affected by mental health, like openly you can see. But we all suffer from mental health in some ways, whether on the workplace, whether at home. There's stuff that we all have issues with that some of us are able to figure it out, get assistance from supports, persons out there who would give the support. We find outlets such as sports, just doing things that you're passionate about. I would recommend more health and fitness when it comes to mental health.
Tell me why, and you're also, this is what you do full time. So how?
Semi-full time.
Semi-full time? Okay. Okay, semi-full time. I feel like when I see you, I mostly see you in, fitness spaces, but can you talk about that connection between mental health and fitness, and maybe tell us how, for you, fitness has helped to support good mental health?
Okay. So for me, yes, I have challenges and things that I wrestle with. There's not everybody don't rub you the way that you feel comfortable about, and also you live in a society where sometimes people would criticize the way in which you do things and stuff like that. So when you understand that the world that you're living in, there would always be those hurdles, you have to find things that you're passionate about. So passion, I look at myself growing up and I realize like sports and stuff like that, those were real good outlets for my cognitive function and, you know, keeping me alert and strong and giving me the discipline that I need in terms of, you know, growing in this world. So that's one of the reasons maybe why I still love fitness and love the passion of being able to help persons. When you have good coaches, good mentors and stuff like that, the only one thing that you can do when you reach that age where you can impact that is to be that true essence of what it is. So that's how it is for me, like from then and presently, to really give the information, live the lifestyle, and just be honest.
So for you, it's both practicing fitness yourself and teaching fitness
teaching
that
fitness
helps you to maintain a good...
good mental health. You know, each one teach one, iron sharpen iron, we know those quotes. You just have to have a point in your life that you know that no man is an island. So then if you can help you do that, and it gives you a good feeling. It's not that you're looking for person to the gratification and stuff like that. You do things for the right reason. And I think that's one of the reasons why we connect. Because you remember I saw you and I saw the potential and I say, hey, listen, if you do this, you can improve the way in which you develop yourself in the fitness world, as well as, you know, help others, be mentored and then be a mentor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think as you were talking, I'm thinking about classes, because that's where we see each other most now. You know, you teach aerobics and step and strength training classes that I go to. And I was also, you know, thinking about, as you talked about, like that community of fitness, how maybe, well, you know, some people like different things when it comes to the fitness, where like some people might be into CrossFit classes, some people might be into classes in general, and some people might want to work out individually. But I think there's something special about being in a community of fitness people and, you know, motivating each other, learning things from each other, learning the people, right? That helps to, well, first of all, accountability, because I realize, you know, when you in come class for a while, people will be like, hey man, see you in a while, you know, so you get to know each other, you get to know, not people's routines necessarily, but you get to learn people enough to be able to miss them. And I think, there's something really special about, cultivating and being in that community of fitness that helps to keep you motivated. I mean, yesterday we had class and I was I came in, I was good, and then all of a sudden it was like the energy is gone. And I think that, you know, people who, especially women, you know, people who experience different beyond, you know, being a woman, it's like life happens. So sometimes it's like, sometimes you have to drag yourself to class. Sometimes you drag yourself through the class. Sometimes you're having a good day. Sometimes, you know, you're having not so good a day. But I usually find, for me, even when I drag myself through the class, because that's all that I can give, I feel a little better after. Because that's what I feel like movement does for you in general.
And you know, sometimes, like, and that's why sometimes groups works. Why? You come exhausted. It not necessarily that the body is exhausted, but you know, maybe the workload, and your mind is so exhausted that the body's like, you know. But then when you reach in a space that has persons who have the same aim and the aim is to be well. And how would we do that? Be among persons who want to be well. And I think what happened is you come, and then the energies of others start to give you energy. And I think that's what happened. People love working out in groups sometimes because you can feel that energy and be a part of something that is nothing else about nobody business but about the fitness business. You know, so you don't have to, like, there's so much different people who from the cross section of our society that comes to the class. It's not about knowing where they work, wherever. It's about making sure that, you know, everybody can be treated with respect, and, you know, you no one get left behind. So, you know, you move around, you help others with their farms, stuff like that. You give people the pep talk, let's go, you know, you can do this, you know, because you want to be able to change the way in which that mind came in there, if you was like, you know, but there's some situation that you probably would start to work out and then you definitely out of it. It happens. Maybe you didn't get enough rest. Maybe what you ate throughout the day wasn't enough, you know, to give you enough nutrients to take you through the whole class, you know what I mean? So sometimes there are those variables, that would determine the way in which ones would perform. But it's always a good feeling to meet new people in a space that is just about that one love and, you know, health and wellness. Yeah, because that's where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think for classes too, it helps that, especially on a day when your mind just not there, it helps when somebody else is figuring it out for you, and you don't have to,
like
you just have to follow it.
like you
that
know,
helps.
like when I say, I say,
It was
you can do more. Come on, lead by example, you know. But I have to do that because you know, when you see person having the qualities, and you know that they can definitely make a difference in their life, and unawarely others are looking at you, you know, because that's what it is. Like, you know, one would look and say, well, okay, yeah, I like when Roma come to the class. So when Roma ain't come to the class, I'm going to ask, well, how come you come to the class? And that's what we say about that family, you know. And I think when it comes to mental health, we support just knowing that somebody show up, that you expect to show up.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that can go a long way as well to even change some person's mood, make some people feel, have a greater self-esteem, greater self-awareness, you know, because we are interacting in a space, you know.
Yeah, I feel that, and I think it's also, like, I appreciate what you said, because here's a space for fitness. You really don't have to learn people if you don't want to, but I think it does help if you are able to be like, you know, I missed you the other day, or if you see somebody, you know, their mood looks different to what it usually looks like, or you see them look a little down or whatever, to be like, hey, you okay? Like, sometimes all people need is a, hey, you okay?
Yes. It can,
like, that can go so far, or sometimes it's, you know, hey, you okay? Then they answer you honestly, and you have like a 5-minute conversation after class, or whatever it is, you know. Maybe they don't even want to talk about that, but you talk about something else, and that's able to help to lift their spirits. So I think, you know, community is so important to mental health, and I suppose that's also why they're having this mental health awareness walk, because that will bring people
it would bring
together,
people,
you know, similar minds and so on. And that, I went to it last year. It was Frigate Base Majors Bay, and it was a challenge, but it was like when you get to the finish line,
you feel good.
Accomplishing things is so good for your mental health as well, and it's like the accomplishments don't have to be any huge accomplishments. It's like, okay, I'm going to, and like when I was on the walk, I was like, okay, I'm gonna run from here to here. That was an accomplishment, and it's like, okay, I did it. I can do this again, you know. So it's like also like breaking down things into smaller pieces. But do you, or maybe we can come and you could talk about the walk after, so that people, you know, have that to take with them.
And probably bring, you know, one or two other persons.
Yeah, and, you want people to bring.
No. What I'm saying is when we come and talk about the walk, then, you know, I can probably bring one or two other persons with me to sit on this couch. To
talk about it after the walk, because this is when we're talking about it now.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about it now, to let people know there's a second time I'm going to be there. And it's always a good event to have, you know, different people from different cross section. The only thing is that we have to be there early. Like I have to be there like 4 o'clock in the morning.
And when the rest of us have to be there?
Well, we have to try to be there like around that same time. The reason being is you want to finish the walk by about 6, 7 o'clock the latest.
Before it gets too hot.
And then, you know, persons still have to get something to eat. We had their refreshments there after. And then, you know, most persons would have to take a bus back. To collect their car at Frigate Bay. So the earlier the better, you know. That's the only thing about the walk.
And it's okay. I'm going to spin it positively and say you want to set out walking before the sun rises, so that you could see the sun rising over the peninsula.
Yes. And you know, right now 5:30 in the morning is like bright. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I don't be up.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. But like 5:30 right now,
I believe you.
Is very bright. So I mean, you know, for persons to come out that early, like I know they probably would have buses that would pick persons up. You would have to, you know, make a, you know, sign up for that. But it's not every day. And it's for a good cause. So I think to just make that little sacrifice to say get up early just to be a part of something that is necessary for one's personal growth. As you say, you have a bucket list. You know what, I never did that walk, maybe let me do it one time. There would be new persons coming. There would be persons who probably did the walk last year who wouldn't do it this year. But that's fair. We can't be all places. But if it's something that you have never done, it should be something that you do. And if it's something that you really love doing in terms of walking and stuff like that, it should be something that you should do. If you did it before, do it again.
Yeah, and it also feels like a walkathon for adults. If you miss your high school walkathons, and I know children would be there too. They would have some children there as well with their parents and stuff. So I mean, okay. So let's take a short break here, and then we will come back and talk about mental health, fitness, and sex, which is, I know I thought we wasn't going to talk about sex, but that's actually, we're talking about sex. So stay tuned.
A little bit about.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Pleasure Pulse. You're listening to us talk about mental health and sex and fitness. And I'm joined by trainer Wayne Clark, and we have so far been talking about mental health and fitness more broadly. We haven't talked about sex at all, and you know, that's We're here. That's what we're here for. But I think sometimes it's good to not take a break, but sometimes even without talking about the thing, you can recognize the connections between the thing, because people often talk about how sex is a form of exercise and sex is a form of fitness. And so I want to dive into that conversation about the connection between all three: mental health, fitness, and sex. So what would you say is, the connection there? How are those things in conversation with each other, mental health, fitness, and
mental health and sexual health are interconnected. To some, when you say that, it might sound a little sinful to really tell people that sex is good for your mental health.
Who would that sound sinful to?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I mean, okay. Some faiths, okay.
Okay, if you're talking to, okay.
Right.
But not all.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be honest and say, well, yes, sex is good, because it is good. But at the same time, to some people, it might sound a kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe you need to have some sex. you understand what I mean? Then the person will say, come on, oh my God, hear what he said. But it's based on statistics. It has shown that your sexual health is very important, and it also can impact your mental health.
And vice versa, your mental health can impact your sexual well-being.
Right. But when we release, we are releasing tension that is built up. When we lift weight, we are dealing with stress from a different reference point. One is to strengthen the physical body, your muscle, your bones, stuff like that. One is to strengthen your,
One is for your outside muscles and one is for your inside muscles. You could say it like that. You could say it like that. That's okay.
Right, we could say it like that. But it's important. Some studies have shown that having sex 2 to 3 times a week can help a man. It can help your prostate. There's some studies that says so. Also in women's health, it shows that, it can happen. Some people prefer to have a partner and do it. Some people prefer toys. And we live in a world where, a lot of our sisters has their toys. A lot of guys, it's not so much toys for guys out there.
Okay.
And that's the truth. So
That's
I guess some guys would more masturbate or stuff like that. Women would self-pleasure, stuff like that. Or you have a partner, wherever. But it's just to get that release out. And it's, as I say, to some people it might sound sinful. To some people it might be like, okay, I understand. But however you take it, it has studies out there that shows the importance of having a good sexual lifestyle.
And that, so when we talk about sexual health here, we're not talking necessarily like we're talking about like sexual well-being, sexual pleasure, your sex, the activity of your sex life, or how active or not.
Right.
It is not so much like the absence of illness or anything like that. We're talking about frequency and it happening at all.
Right.
Okay.
But then, we have the downside that happens with older males, older females. Women go through menopause, stuff like that. Some things can be dictated by hormones, underlying illnesses, stuff like that.
Right, like NCDs
right,
and so on,
right, right.
and how those might
Right.
affect your sexual life.
Right. But there are persons who I've trained, and other trainers who I communicate with, males. Some were overweight. They had they were impotent to a certain level. High blood pressure, sugar, stuff like that. Underlying illnesses, yeah. And they start to work out, change the way in which they nutrition, rest, exercise. With your cardiovascular, strength training. One would be aerobic and one would be anaerobic. And they have seen significant change
In their sex life.
Yes, in their response. And it's a good thing when you can get a good response. Sometimes stress can cause you to not perform as well. It doesn't mean that you're impotent. It just means that you probably need some form of outlet to de-stress, which we still recommend exercise.
Yeah.
Whether both strength training and still make sure your nutrition, So everything still always goes back to care. Rest, nutrition, exercise, and sex. Those four things is those
The
four
keys to that's long.
to longevity,
the keys to a long
longer life.
Okay, nutrition, exercise,
Yes.
sex, and what was
Nutrition.
the fourth one? Yeah, rest.
Okay, so we're gonna put sex last because we can do.
Can we put it first? Okay, go ahead. Okay, we're gonna put it first because all of those things contribute to.
Still,
okay,
yeah.
yes.
So those who are like probably on a break, who are not having no sex, that's fair.
Yeah.
Do exercise. If you don't want to do it alone, if you're not motivated to do it alone, get a trainer. And there are a lot of us, there's a lot of gyms around, you know what I mean? If you don't want to do that, do some yoga.
Stretching and flexibility.
Right,
those
which is
are
yoga,
good.
stuff like that.
Yeah, those are good for sex.
Maybe you can join a dance group. That's good too.
Sensuality.
Yes, yes. I wouldn't say go and do karaoke and and stuff like that, because it doesn't give the body that
movement
that you need. But it's something that you can do.
Not in the place of exercise. Movement.
Right.
And I like to talk about movement. I mean, it is exercise, but exercise can sound daunting sometimes, whereas I feel like movement, we do. However we move our bodies, I think we do need to move our bodies, because you realize that even something like stretching, if you don't stretch for a while, how stiff
the body
can feel.
Yes.
And apart from all of those being helpful for sex, because I just see people like talking about certain exercises like hip thrusts and other activities that build your glutes and so on for certain movements.
And your Kegel exercise, because hip thrust is like that, and squinting exercise, and for your pelvic, so there are some movements that naturally would help that. And yes, we go back to, exercise would help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So exercise helps with sexual health. And I think for me, like, one thing that I have reflected on is not just the change in the appearance of my body as a result of doing exercise, but the change in how I feel.
Yes.
And how I feel carrying around my body, because like that's an important thing too, like feeling good in your body, whatever your body looks like. And bodies look differently, right? So
Yes.
it's not like everybody should be trying to look the same
No,
way.
just-
It's just I want to feel like I can comfortably carry
Yes.
my body around, and that has helped with self-esteem.
Yes.
That has helped with confidence. That
Yes.
has helped with all sorts of things, just feeling well in general. And I think that all of that too contributes to good sexual health and good sexual experiences and good sexual activity, because it's like, not just doing the hip thrusts or squats or whatever to get
Kettlebell
you
swings and,
to get your glutes looking good,
Right,
but it's
right.
also building endurance,
Yes.
it's building stamina,
Yes.
it's flexibility,
Yes.
so that whatever positions you end up in, you feel like you can come back as you should be afterwards, or you're not injured.
Yes,
Because it
yes.
also helps with preventing
Yes,
against
yes,
injury and so
yes.
on. And all of that contributes, I think, to good mental health, especially things like self-esteem,
Yes,
feeling like
yes.
you can do things, feeling like you can try new things, and feeling that confidence and comfort, I think, to do it. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so you were giving me some examples, some testimonials of people who have seen improvements in their sex lives after making changes in their fitness and exercise and so on.
In terms of, in regards to nutrition, the way in which you view food, the way in which they view adequate rest, the way in which they view exercise on a whole. I've met persons who never would have entertained coming to the gym or working out or getting a trainer, etc. I think what does it for most is when you do your blood works and you go to your doctor and they see certain things that can shorten your lifespan. For instance, we have a lot more persons who are getting strokes. Would you say it's a mental health issue why persons getting stroke?
Doesn't it often have to do with stress?
Stress, sometimes.
By the way, I'm not a doctor.
No, but we
I know
we
people talk about the connection
Right.
between stress
right
and strokes.
right.
What else?
So
You tell me.
So I mean, we both are not doctors, but we are observant, and we live in a community where we see persons, and maybe one day you saw someone, and then the next day you heard, well, that person have a stroke. For instance, in my family, I have a couple of my cousins, they got strokes.
Yeah.
Um,
And young.
Well, young meaning in their 50s, 60s.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I have been hearing of, like, growing up, it seemed like strokes were things that maybe only happen to older people, but now you're hearing
A lot
of
more.
some younger
Right,
people
younger persons, yeah.
getting strokes. That's what I
Right.
mean.
So yeah, my family, I recommend some exercise, some stretches, some movement in order to, because your heart, it's very important. Your heart, your mind, your organs. We are not going to get everything right. But if we can get most of the things right, then we are on your way. I had a conversation with a guy there, and I say, man, long time I see you. I say, man, you putting on some weight, man. You need to go in the gym and do something. He said, boy, I had a friend who was all of that, and he still died. And I say, I understand, we all would, but, the whole idea of life is to see how long we can live. I mean, yes, the person was eating a certain way, be a certain way, but some things are genetics. You know, we only can be our best. So I said, you know, at least your friend was trying to be the best that he can be, despite. But in the end, everyone have to still want it for themselves. And I think a lot of cases is when it's too late, nearly too late. When the doctor say, hey, listen, you need to do this, otherwise you... And that within itself might seem like peer pressure, because, you know, a lot of times we don't want to be told like, yo, you need to do that. If you don't do that...
Yeah,
you know.
But I think we can say it in different ways, in more helpful ways. I understand that sometimes, you know, people get to the point of frustration where it's like we feel like we have to tell people something rough for them to, you know, do what it is.
Jolt them in.
But you don't use rough language. I think you're very, like, I'm talking at, you know, fitness classes and beyond. I mean, to me, it'd be like, use this, and so you know. But if I understand that has its place sometimes, but generally it's good job. Generally it's you know, keep doing, keep going, and so it's like, can we use that language with people too?
Like with you, Roma, you have been a part of the world, the fitness world, for a moment, and you know, so I can speak to you different, like, you know, give that look, like, you know, but then there are those who are just getting into it. I have to be patient. I have to have the understanding that if I want them to be here for the long term, then I have to be polite. I have to be honest with them. As you say, I don't have to be rude. But I can be honest in a nice way. And it's just up to them now if whatever information I'm given, if they receive it with love and understanding. But with you, I'm not gonna be easy, because you are someone who persons looked at. As I say, when we are in that world and I'm looking, and it goes back, how come I see you in the class for a week? Because even though we are not like on the phone, like, hey, how was work going today and stuff like that, that's a happy place where everyone that comes are there for the same reason. It's been a tough day. This is the only place I can come that nobody can tell me anything other than the trainer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, you know? And that is, as you know, as we've said before, so good for so good for mental health, and movement in general, whatever form of movement you choose, getting in a good sweat can help to not solve all of your problems, because if you have, you know, you might have like material issues that you're dealing with, it might not solve everything, but I think it goes a long way, and especially if you're able to be present, is like, at least for that hour, you know, you get some relief release, which is, I think, part of, you know, mental health. It's like every hour of your 24 hours might not be good, but if you can take 1 hour where you can catch your breath, and unfortunately, you know, you have to go back to
and give you clarity,
the things, and give you clarity, and it might help you with some of the other things that you're experiencing, right? Like, it could be a conversation in the gym, as well as it could be just the act of doing the workout that can help you. And I know for me, exercise is helping to keep me sane.
And you make new bridges. We build new bridges.
Yeah.
Like, we have definitely built some good bridges.
Yeah.
You know,
Because now look at you.
we got gifts.
Look at, oh yeah, we did get
we
gifts.
got gifts,
We did get
you know,
gifts
and
from
it,
someone.
yes.
Someone traveled recently,
Yes,
and they were like,
yes.
"Is your name Mom?" And I was like, "Yes." And it was like, "Here's a gift from Italy, man." Woman, I was like, "Oh my goodness."
Yes.
Yeah, so
and that's what it's all about. It's about appreciating and persons' energies.
yes.
You know what I mean? Energies. People can feel it. People knows and like, yeah, that's a good energy, and that's what it's all about. That also help with the mental health. That yes, you know, this place, these people, yeah, they might know a lot. They might know nothing about me, but the way in which they receive me and show me love. Just a simple thing by setting up, you know, the steps. You know what I mean? And when time to pack up, everybody helping each other.
Yeah.
You
People
understand?
bring a stick for you. People bring a mat for you.
You understand?
It's like small things that I know, like
Right.
especially just the act of being, or the feeling of being seen. Like people see that I'm here, and whether it's like you reach class late and somebody moved their thing to make a space for you, as I said, you know, people bring a mat for you, as you mentioned, you know, everybody, like, it had to be theirs, you know, they could see you moving around or whatever, and they take up your step and they pack it up for you. That's like, I see you in this space. I recognize the value that you add to this space, and I'm okay, you know, stepping outside of myself a little bit to support you in this space. And I think, like, you know, the more we can find communities where that happens, the more, you know, we can build our mental health muscles and so on. And yeah, I appreciate that, and appreciate all of you who come to aerobics.
Yes, we do.
and do that for us. So we are winding down as usual. You know, the hour goes by so quickly.
So quickly.
And you know, we did talk about the cross section of folks that come to the class specifically, and that there has a representation of people of many ages. So we also know that fitness isn't something that, like, okay, you only do exercise or movement between 16 to 18 and then you're done. You know, hopefully fitness is part of your life for as long as you live. So can you share some recommendations as you get older, because, you know, different people experience different things, whether that is muscle loss and so on. How do we stay fit as we grow for good mental health and good sex?
Right. So when we are young, we have higher testosterone, higher drive. We are more aggressive. When it comes to wanting to achieve. When you get older, you have, for males, we have less testosterone drive. So your testosterone drops by about 40%. Some, if you are not eating a certain way, being a certain way, it can be worse, as I say, your NCD, stuff like that. So my recommendation is that, as you have said just a while ago, we just have to move physically. Find things that you can do. Simple backyard farming is a way of burning up some calories while doing something that you love. So if you perhaps saying to yourself, well, you know, I don't want to go to a gym right away, I don't have money to do this right away. If you have like a backyard and you can do your little backyard gardening, stuff like that, and then, you know, do a little walk, that's good for one part, for your heart. But the strength training, in itself, that which stimulate your growth hormones and give you longevity, because what we have found out that longevity is in the muscle. Your muscle is where the longevity is. That's why some persons, when they get older, they lose muscle and their skin start to sag. And then there are those who you would say, how old are you? And they say, well, I'm 70. And man, you look like 50. Because they are doing, they would say, well, I'm exercise, I do my walk, you know. I've been meeting a lot of persons who are in their 60s and 70s, and, you know, they do their walks, they you know, some had underlying illnesses, and they didn't let that stop them. They do their walks, they keep a grounded themselves, you know, and it's very impressive. So me being younger and looking at them, I said, yeah, I want to reach them age. I want to look like that, you know, even though I'm into fitness, you know, I still see persons who I admire, and I'm like, yeah, you know, that's what I aspired to be in those times, you know, not broken down, but build up, you know. Otherwise, make sure you do your physical check every year. Guys, as well, I know ladies do it most times. They do the pap smear, they do this. Guys, you know, your prostate checks, wherever. Once you know what's happening in the body, then you can make changes and stuff like that. First, know what's happening in your body, then you make the changes. It's nothing wrong to reaching out to persons. I've worked with 1 or 2 persons who had little mild strokes, and you just give them the motivation and stuff, and they're doing better. You know, they're doing a lot better. But that's what it's all about. It's all about helping person to improve their overall understanding and outlook of what life is, other than your job, other than your relationship. It's just about you, without those other things, you know, because those other things mean nothing if your physical well-being is in shambles.
A word. I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and of course, part of that is nutrition. You've talked about.
Yes, nutrition.
Nutrition.
Nutrition is always important. There are free radicals that's in the body, and then there are foods that we eat that if we don't really read the label, because sometimes cheap doesn't mean that it's best for you. A lot of times we try to save, but sometimes saving when it comes to eating, I'll tell you this, I would prefer spend my money on food than buy expensive clothes.
But food is expensive.
You heard me. I would prefer.
Just you, but food is expensive. How do we control the cost of good quality?
That's another story.
That's another story
right,
for another
but
day.
I said, remember,
okay, what
in the
can people do
beginning,
in the meantime?
they talk about food, clothing, shelter. That always been the order. Food, clothing, shelter. That's always been the order. But we don't look at, so I asked person, I said, man, you got a good job. Well, you don't buy the, you know, you buy the expensive clothes, you do that. Take some of that money and put it into your nutrition. If we keep saying food is expensive, then, you know, that within itself is like a misnomer.
But I think, I mean, okay, this another conversation.
No, because, yeah.
I mean, I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you.
All right.
But
so,
I
for instance, I would buy a pair of shoes for $60 than $160.
Okay. Okay.
You check?
Okay.
I would buy maybe a, right. So I'm saying, yes, it's
that
not that I can't.
It's not,
right. It's not that I can't afford to buy expensive things, but I prefer have good food to eat than worrying about
I agree.
worrying about that. Why? The clothes, all these things, you're gonna throw them away anyway. After a
And
while.
they also don't contribute to your living, your longevity or anything like that.
Would you say
Necessarily
would you say, I don't know we have much time, but
Yeah.
would you say on a real that, all right, your nutrition and physical well-being, your materials, which one gives you a greater purpose?
I'm still saying it's very expensive. Things that we need to survive shouldn't be so expensive.
Yes. But that's...
Because we could buy cheaper clothes and things like that. We have that option. But if we wanted to buy cheaper food, it's usually not the food that's good for us.
Good for you, right. So that's...
I think, long term, I understand what you're saying. I
Right.
still think long term, we do have to do something. And it might not mean, it might mean getting into more, community farming, backyard farming, eating what you grow and things like that. But things as is are too expensive. But anyways, that's, like I said, another conversation.
Yeah, that would be
for
another
day.
conversation.
We're here talking
But
about mental.
I would prefer
Yeah.
persons to really consider
How we can invest in ourselves from the
yeah,
inside out.
right,
Yes.
right. Because in the beginning, it's food, clothing, shelter. Where did we go wrong?
Yeah.
Where did we go wrong? Yes, there's the expense.
But there's the value and the
all right.
importance.
The expense would still be there if you don't take care of yourself
True.
and get sick.
You're gonna
You
feel it
would
after.
spend more money after. So I'm just saying,
I hear you. I don't understand. Yeah.
And this is on a serious note, because up to yesterday I was having a conversation with some persons, and I was telling them the same thing. I said, listen, I remember when I used to want to buy the latest this and get the expensive this and this. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that. You have your life. You can do it if you want. But all those things gonna fade away.
And all those things come at a cost.
But your life, to preserve your life, which one gives you a greater self-esteem? Eating right, working out. When persons see you, they say, wow, Roma, man, you're looking, you working out? Yeah, I'm working out. I go to the gym, I try to balance my life. That might be a motivation to that person. Girl, you're looking pashy. Your clothes look nice. Yeah, I bought some couch stuff, my couch bag, my... No, what I'm saying is, which one would give one a more motivation towards a better mental health, wellness, lifestyle? It's not the garment, it is
the work that you put in.
The workout, your nutrition, stuff like that. I think people more admire those things than what you wear.
Okay. So what would you leave people with? That was a whole side note.
Yeah, because, I mean...
But what would you leave people with, who are thinking about talking about mental health, fitness, and sex?
I would say be more informed. More informed, you can talk to trainers, you can talk to persons who work out, you can talk to
your doctor,
your inner self,
and
your doctor, stuff like that. And then at the end of the day, it's all about what you want, like making that honest decision. without any excuse. In terms of sex, you have to figure it out. If it walks into your religion, stuff like that, if it walks into your story, whether you have a spouse, whether you want to use self-pleasure, that's not, that's, you know, that's whatever that decision is, when it comes to whichever one, that's on the person. But we know that exercise helps your sex drive. We know that sex help your mental health. So both of them is good to do. But if you're not having sex, please do. Okay?
And if you're not exercising, please have sex. No, ideally people will do
whatever,
both of them.
yeah, both of them, or whatever they prefer.
You know, do a little bit.
Yeah.
Do some of both. Keep yourself moving so that you can be good.
Yes. So that's...
Yeah, that's what you would say.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
Some
so
sex, more exercise, some sex, better nutrition, your diet, all that, and make sure you're getting adequate rest. And smile.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining me for another conversation about mental health and sex. As I mentioned at the top of the show, you know, we've had similar conversations in the past, but I think it's always great to have a reminder, especially as fitness and exercise and movement are not a one and done thing, but they are a continuous thing that help us to preserve ourselves and our lives.
They say repetition is what makes things solid. So, I mean, having one conversation wouldn't do it. Because then, you know, doing it and doing it and doing it, it makes you better. So thank you again, Roma. It's always a pleasure being in your world. And, you know, I'll see you on Tuesday.
At table breaks. Okay. Okay, thank you all so much. As usual, Pleasure Pulse is a safe, inclusive space where no topic is too big or too small. As usual, I'm going to wish you a pleasurable evening, and I will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.